Greetings, vinyl community. It is Tuesday, April 25th, and I've just gotten back from Record Store Day. Michael, you say, Record Store Day? Why, that was on Saturday. Well, you see, in my family, we celebrate Orthodox Record Store Day, which is 3 days later, so it's just a matter of a different religion. And here is my haul. This is the only Record Store Day item for this session that I purchased, and I've just come back from Vinyl Solution with Hal Blaine and psychedelic percussion. And so I haven't even opened this yet. I'm going to open it right now on camera. I've got my handy little X-Acto knife to penetrate the hermetically sealed shrink wrap here. Go for that again. Now, this record wasn't even on my radar until on the Saturday itself when I started seeing some reactions to it. And it sounded really interesting, so I went on to YouTube where it can be heard and checked it out. And sitars and moogs and Hal Blaine going apeshit on the drum, going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs on the drum kit. Sign me up. So here's the inner and the vinyl, which is, of course, stuck by static electricity to this slick paper inner, is... oh, okay. This is turquoise and gold colored vinyl, according to them. I don't see a whole lot of gold in this, but there you go. Nonetheless, this will be an interesting listen. This is evidently the original tape master. Yes, I just wanted to show in respect for the passing of Harry Belafonte, a record that was very important to me, a very formative record for me. This was recorded in 1959, Belafonte at Carnegie Hall. And when I was a little kid, and I was 3 years old in 1959, I loved this record. I'm not sure we had it right in 1959, maybe in 60, 61. But I loved this record, and it's in 3 sections. There's a section called Moods of the American Negro, so it's Black Americana, songs like Cotton Fields, John Henry, Sylvie, beautiful, beautiful spiritual Take My Mother Home. And then he does the whole calypso routine, so you get the wonderful Caribbean sequence, which is mostly riotously funny stuff like Mama Look a Boo Boo and Man Smart, Woman Smarter, which of course the Grateful Dead do an adaptation of. Man Piaba, which is very risque. A lot of suggestive stuff that of course completely went over my head as a small child and probably continues to go over my head as an aging graybeard. And then there's folk songs from around the world. Danny Boy from Ireland, Shenandoah from the USA, Merci Bon Dieu, Cuckoo Cuckoo Paloma, and of course Matilda, She Take Me Money and a Run Venezuela. So, respect and love to Harry Belafonte, who passed away at the age of 96. Saw an auction on YouTube a couple of weeks back, and these kind of distress me when I see the vinyl auctions where people are willing to pay quite a bit over the odds, I feel, for records that are not really rare. These must be people who live in towns where they don't have record stores of their own. But you know, they don't live in towns where they don't have Discogs or eBay. And in fact, on seeing this record, I thought, oh, I'd like to have this one. And I found a copy on eBay for set sale less than was being asked as a minimum bid in this online auction, and in obviously superior condition, because this was just beautiful. Still in shrink wrap from 1964, I think this is 63. It's an early 60s recording of Thelonious Monk, big band and quartet. The quartet has Charlie Rouse. It's got on saxophone, who's always wonderful with Monk. The big band includes Rouse and Steve Lacy on saxophone. Lacy, of course, best known as a free jazz musician and an exponent of the soprano saxophone. But he's always had this tight connection with Monk and done a lot of recordings on his own of Monk's compositions. And this wonderful live album has a lot of those classic compositions. It starts off with a long version of I Mean You. It's got Evidence. It's got Epistrophe. And this is a very long album. It's over an hour in total. 32 minutes on side one. And it's in beautiful, beautiful condition. It did have a couple of little bits of foreign matter in the grooves that caused a skip towards the end of side one, and I had to do a little surgery, but I managed to get that out of there. So very pleased with this. Available for not too much money online. These Columbia Monk albums, and this is an original 2i copy, the kind that, this was the inner sleeve that it came in. This was back in the days when they had these plastic inner sleeves with little perforated top. These Columbia Monks are really undervalued. You can get these online for cheap. You can probably find them in your local record stores for cheaper if you know where to look. Speaking of cheap online, I found this on Amazon, and I've followed the Bob Dylan bootleg series since it began back in, I think it was the early 90s. Maybe it was at the end of the 80s, but I think it was early 90s when he started doing the bootleg series. And this not the new one, but the one before, volume 16, I'd kind of skipped over. And I saw that Amazon had the LP version, the double LP, not the big deluxe set, but the double LP for $14. Now you can't beat that with a stick. I mean, kept the hype sticker, peeled it off, and stuck it on the plastic outer. This is interesting packaging. Folds out. It's sort of a flap this way, and the records come out in the middle, so it's sort of a like a unipack, only thick. And aside from getting this double LP set, when you order it from Amazon, you also get the automatic download of the digital version of the album, and that version is more music. This is like an hour of music between the two LPs. You get 2 hours of music on the download that's associated with it. So it's like 2 CDs worth. And that includes tracks that, like, in particular, the very first track on the download version is Angelina. That's not on the vinyl. I think that's my favorite thing in the whole package. So really good deal if that's still available on Amazon, and it was the last time I looked. Last week I went to a concert of experimental music at a venue in San Francisco called the Luggage Store Gallery. They hold these concerts twice a month. And it's a loft space on Market Street in San Francisco. It's above an actual luggage store, it's an art gallery. And this concert had 3 performers, all of them doing tabletop electronics. So they'd have some kind of controller, whether a little keyboard or one of them was using a drum pad, or just one of those little matrix things. I forget what brand name is that's associated with using those for creating music, inputting music into a DAW. But and then these are all being run through things like guitar pedals, echoes and phasers and distortion boxes and so on. And two of them had vinyl available at the show. So I picked up this one by Drekka, Drekka, and the album is titled No Tracks in the Snow. And another performer performed under the name Timber Rattle, and this album is titled God Walks the Dark Hills. And both of these are drone-based. They have a kind of ritualistic element to them. In particular, Timber Rattle in performance does very drony, chanty stuff. He's adding his own vocals to the electronics, as all the performers were doing, and all performing in darkness. It just was their modus operandi. The first performer who was did not have a record available performed with his table illuminated just by candles and some funny little glowing globe. This Drekka performed just illuminated by a single light bulb, and Timber Rattle was completely in darkness, so there was only ambient light from outside. So both of these are very kind of avant, experimental, and something that you could listen to on a number of levels, because it does have a kind of floating and mystical situation to them. There you go. The Drekka album is a bit more bits and pieces because it's collaborations with various people, and the Timber Rattle album was more right out of his own head and very drone-based. Another album I picked up in San Francisco, that seems to be a real recurring theme. Jody Grind, One Step On. This is an album from 1969 or 70. So it's before, classic prog music, but this is kind of proto-prog, kind of precursor to prog rock. It's a trio of organ, guitar, and drums, and there's some funny stuff going on with the mix. There are brass arrangements done by David Palmer, and I'm guessing that's the same David Palmer who was a member of Jethro Tull and is now D. Palmer, and who did arrangements for Jethro Tull in their early days before becoming a member. They do a cover of Paint It Black, and this is marred by one real weird misstep, the last track called Rock and Roll Man, which actually mentions Chuck Berry a couple of times in the lyrics, but doesn't mention him in the songwriting credits, even though the entire song is a total plagiarism of Johnny B. Good. It's not changed at all. It simply is Johnny B. Good with changed lyrics. Recent-ish release from, reissue I should say, from Blue Note, Ronnie Foster and Two-Headed Freep, F-R-E-A-P, Two-Headed Freep. Some great soul jazz organ. And if you love jazzy, funky Hammond, as I do, from the 70s, that's a really good example. Pentangle, Basket of Light. I now got all the classic Pentangle albums. I was complaining on somebody else's channel just the other day that I never see this album without a really worn cover. So right after saying that, of course, I went out and found this really nice copy. So I've now got Pentangle, Basket of Light on Reprise Records. There is a brand new album out by Jethro Tull, and it is based on, it's a concept album, based on Norse mythology and the pantheon of gods in said mythology. You notice that the cover icon is sort of a cave painting version of the living in the past pose. The album is titled Rock Flute, or Rock Flöte, if you want to do it the way Ian says. Flöte is not Norse. Flöte is German for flute, and Rock is destiny. And there are umpteen different colored vinyl editions of this. So you can probably get your pick of about 9 different versions. I chose the green one. But it's out in gold, it's out in clear, it's out in white. There's a red version in the deluxe set. There's blue, and you really get your pick. It's a very nice package, pretty good album. Ian Anderson's voice has suffered greatly over the years. There's a little booklet in the other pocket. But he's accommodated it pretty well on this record, so really like that one. Finally, an album on the Deutsche Grammophon Avant-garde series by the French trombone player Vinko Globokar. You might think Vinko Globokar, that doesn't sound like a very French name. Well, he was born in France, but as a teenager relocated to Yugoslavia, what was then Yugoslavia, now Slovenia. So I assume his parentage was from there. He does 4 works here, all featuring just trombone. The first piece is his own composition, Discourse 2, for 5 trombones, which he performs through overdubbing. The second is Luciano Berio's Sequenza 5, one of a whole series of works titled Sequenza by Berio for various solo instruments. Karl-Heinz Stockhausen, solo for melody instrument and tape delay, where he's playing into a tape recorder and the tape recorder is playing back over a loudspeaker, so he's responding to the feedback that's coming from the tape delay system. And finally, Carlos Roque Alsina and Consequenza Opus 17 for solo trombone. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Be well. Talk with you again soon. Get some rats in your alley. Bye-bye for now.